Well, slap my lid and call me an Anbernic DS because the Anberic RG DS is officially real. And also, I was officially wrong in my recent video where I thought that the Anbernic DS was AI slop. It aged like milk. So just a couple hours ago, Anbernic unveiled their RG DS dual screen DS Lite clone, which is clocking in at under $100, which is really gonna shake up the entire handheld space. This is the first time we're seeing a budget dual screen handheld for under $200, let alone under $100. Now, this teaser video over on Anbernic's YouTube channel showcases some footage that we have seen before and we talked about in my last video, but also showcases some new stuff. But the most exciting part of this video is we get to see the 4 colors that the RG DS is being released in, including the black and red model. There's a creamy off-white with colored buttons, a transparent model with colored buttons, and finally, my personal favorite, the aqua blue shade from the 3DS. This thing looks absolutely gorgeous, and I just so happen to also have that same color 3DS. This is also an ambassador edition. That means I paid an extra $80 for it, so I guess that's the Cuck edition. Anyways, the red and blue options of the RG DS really reminds me of Pokemon Red and Blue. Having those complementary colors is just such an awesome move, especially at that price point. Now that we know the Anbernic DS is real and not fraudulent footage, we can take a closer look at its features and get an idea for what we can expect from this handheld. Now, the first thing is obviously the dual screen. Having 2 screens on a retro handheld like this is pretty impressive, especially at that price point. Now, they look to be like around the 4-inch range, and the aspect ratio seems to be 4:3, which is going to be great for your classic retro consoles like PS1, N64, Dreamcast, etc. And most importantly, the Nintendo DS, which also had 4:3 aspect ratio screens. So this is mimicking that to a T, as well as a lot of other features, which is what we want to see. We might as well go all the way in terms of creating these clone consoles. Now, another striking feature of this handheld is these 2 analog sticks, which is a very quirky move and also very on brand for Anbernic to just shove as many things in this as possible. We don't know what chipset it's going to be using and what kind of performance, so we don't know what kind of games we can play on here outside of Nintendo DS library, and then everything below that, including SNES, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 1, you get the idea. These analog sticks look identical to Anbernic's RG3 4XX SP, which was their Game Boy Advance SP clone, where they decided to also throw in analog sticks. Moving up from there, we have our face buttons and D-pad, which look absolutely crispy. I think they're really going for a DS Lite feeling with those controls specifically. They look like they have a softer click to it and a lesser travel than some of their other handhelds. These actually look very similar to the RG3 4XX SP as well, which also had low profile, very soft but tactile buttons, and I really enjoyed those. If these are anything like the 34XX SP, then these are going to be fantastic face buttons and D-pad. For shoulders, we have 2 pairs of inline shoulder buttons, with the outer bumpers wrapping around and the inner bumpers being a bit on the smaller side. That's kind of what we can expect for a slim profile handheld like this. They're just squeezing a lot in there. And again, these buttons look very reminiscent of the RG3 4XX SP. I think they took a lot of those controls and buttons and put them on this DS Lite form factor. I'm not complaining. These are looking pretty damn good. In between those, we have a pair of USB-C ports. I'm assuming one is going to be for power and the other one for a monitor out function, kind of like an HDMI out, but USB-C instead. And then next to that, we have a micro SD card slot. It's going to be single slot, which means hopefully we'll have onboard storage. On the bottom of the DS, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack Ayaneo. Take note, on the right side, we have a power lock button and volume rocker. And then we also have our usual start, select, home, back, and an RG launcher button, which is kind of like Anbernic's game launcher front end for their Android systems. And in terms of audio, we have a pair of front firing stereo speakers, which is a huge dub. And finally, a sneaky little microphone hole in the dead center of the hinge. Very reminiscent of the DS Lite. I'm pretty stoked to see that one. And this next one really caught me off guard. Under the hood, Anbernic is unveiling that the RG DS will have a processor in it. And here I was thinking they were going to use 2 cups connected by a string, but no, Anbernic is ahead of the curve and really leading the pack on innovation by using a chipset. Anyways, we don't know what the chipset is gonna be, but we do know the price, and that's obviously under $100. Now we know that the RG DS is probably gonna be running Android because it has that RG launcher button, which Anbernic only puts on their Android handhelds. So with that, we have a dual screen Android handheld, and the only other dual screen Android handhelds that are available right now are $250 and up. There are accessories like the Retroid dual screen add-on that can turn a handheld into a dual screen handheld, kind of like a Megazord attachment, but you will need to have a Retroid Pocket 4 or 5 or Mini to even use that accessory. So that puts you in the $200 and up range. With the Anbernic DS clocking in at under $100, that slashes that in more than half. So it puts Anbernic in a very unique position where we're emulating DS games in a dual screen clamshell form factor as true to the original DSs as possible on a budget too. Now, you might be thinking, bro, just get a DS Lite. If you want a DS Lite, then just get a DS Lite. However, this has so much more it can offer than an original DS Lite. Having a retro handheld in the DS Lite form factor means we can also run all of the other consoles like PlayStation 1, Game Boy Advance, SNES, N64 maybe, and maybe even Dreamcast 2. There's so many consoles you can run that are under the DS power level. And that brings us to the performance of the RG DS. We have no idea what to expect, but under $100, I think we can kind of speculate. Now, I know my track record for speculation has recently been tarnished, but I'm gonna try and rebuild it because I got nothing to lose. Now, a lot of people are thinking that Anbernic is gonna use their all-winner H700 chipset, which is the same one from all of the other Anbernic XX devices, like the 34XX SP, the 35XX Pro, the 35XX SP. I could dive into I can do a Scrooge McDuck dive into the amount of Anbernic XX devices that they have released. The price for these H700 handhelds is usually in the $50 to $70 range, with their most recent 34XX SP clocking in at $67 full price. And that has 1 screen and a hinge. So with 2 screens and a hinge, I'd probably push it up to $75 to $80. I really hope that they don't use the H700 because I don't feel like it's powerful enough to run Android and also use the dual screens and run all of the emulators as well. I think we need something a little more powerful, just crank that notch up a little more. A step above this would be something like a MediaTek G85, which Ayaneo is using in their Pocket Air Mini, which also runs Android, and TechDweeb really liked this handheld, and I'm also looking forward to picking one up too. Another potential chipset would be the Unisoc T618, which Anbernic previously used on their RG405M. Now, this one is a little more expensive, but I think that the metal body of the 405M also contributed to that extra price. So we might be able to see that chipset at under $100, still TBD though. However, the performance on both the MediaTek and the Unisoc would be somewhere around the N64 territory, which I think would be so sick on this handheld. To have portable N64 in a clamshell, that would be my 12-year-old dream. I would be obsessed with this thing. Now, I had always considered the DS to be a portable N64 to an extent. I always wanted it to be a portable N64, and sometimes it kind of felt like it with Metroid Prime Hunters, Diddy Kong Racing, Super Mario 64, Mario Kart. Having actual N64 performance would be really, really cool. I don't know if we'll see this because Anbernic could also just mail it in with an H700 chipset. I know they got no shortage of those, but I'm really hoping that they step it up and put something a little more powerful in there, especially knowing that this will be running Android. Now there's another feature that we can get our grubby little analytic spectacles all over, and that's the size of these screens. A Redditor named Kirais did some crazy Sherlock Holmes type shit here, and it looks to be like these screens are going to be around 4 inches in size. Obviously, they're also going to be 4:3 aspect ratio screens, so if they are 4 inches, that would make a lot of sense. Anbernic has a stockpile of 4-inch displays. Another thing is that the RG DS has a size between a DSi and a DSi XL, so that should be pretty damn comfortable. I have a DSi, but I don't have a DSi XL. I only have a Creeper 3DS. Oh, no. So we can see, comparing the DSi and 2DS LL, that it'll probably be somewhere in between these two, where it'll be pretty pocketable, but a little bit on the bigger side. Not completely crazy size where, you know, you kind of don't want to put in your pocket. I think that this one will be more on the portable side. And finally, let's talk about a potential release date. So Anbernic has officially announced their RG DS on October 11th, which means we can put a stake in the ground and speculate from there. So let's take a look at a couple other Anbernic timelines from announcement to release date. First one here is the RG477M. They posted a first look video on July 14th and then released it on August 2nd. So a little over 2 weeks. Let's put it at 2.5 weeks. Then there's the infamous RG slide teaser that was posted on May 28th, and then it went up for sale on June 20th, about 3 weeks later. And most recently, the RG476H. Man, I love these names. They're just so catchy. They announced this one on September 3rd, and they released it on September 19th. About 16 days, a little over 2 weeks. So the timelines are looking like 2.5 to 3 weeks on average. So we can speculate that 2.5 to 3 weeks from now, we'll have an RG DS available for sale. I really hope that they don't delay it any more than that, but Anbernic moves so incredibly fast. They've proven it time and time again that when they release an announcement like teaser, they pretty much have their warehouse ready to go. And it's just a matter of waiting a couple weeks, and then as soon as they go up for sale, there's no pre-order. You just order it and then they ship it. And when it does go up for sale, they usually like to do a $5 or $10 early bird discount for the first 3 days. So we should be expecting this to be a $99 handheld, and maybe it comes in at $89 early bird special. To me, that sounds like a pretty damn good deal, even if they use their lower powered chipset, as long as it can run the entire DS library, and then we get some games under that. I think this will make a lot of people pretty happy, including myself. Now, I said it in the last video, but I'm extremely excited to see a DS Lite clone that's also a retro handheld. I have a DSi and I have a 3DS, and I love playing DS games on there, but having the versatility of a retro handheld and playing everything else, I mean, you can't beat that, especially at this price point. Now, obviously, I was a bit skeptical in that last video, calling the Anbernic DS AI slop. So I've come crawling back to say it's real, and we can all celebrate now. Now that we know that it's not Google Gemini or AI stuff. However, Anbernic really works in mysterious ways, with there being AI leaks and, you know, real leaks, just mixing it up, and someone saying on Bilibili that the video was purely fabricated. This video is purely fabricated. Any similarity is totally unacceptable. And then Anbernic releases the video a week later. I guess fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I'll probably get fooled a third time. Anyways, let me know what you think of the RG DS in the comments below. I know I am absolutely screaming for this handheld to come. I just can't wait. But like the video if you like the video, and subscribe for more news, reviews, tutorials, and other random shit. I'm Montotech, and I'm gonna despawn until Anbernic leaks another one of their handhelds. I'll see you in the next one. Later!